tell the story, it is much for me, and that is just the reason I tell it now to thee. I love to tell the story, to be my theme in glory, to tell the...
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm coming to you this morning from Island Park in downtown Elkhart. It's a little noisy down here because it's real close to downtown and there's a lot of things going on. It is a weekday. Today we're in Mark chapter 4. Now this chapter is mostly red letter. Yeah, this is really in the book of Mark, this is the most that we hear the Lord Jesus say so far. In this section of scripture, the words that he said were so profound, and there's so many things that can be said about them because they're just layer upon layer of truth in the things that he said. So I'm going to go into it and I'm going to bring some of those things out. Of course, I don't have time to go into all of it. And of course, his word was living. So there's always new things. There's always things that people are seeing maybe that they hadn't seen before. All right, now it starts out here. Chapter 4, verse 1. And he began again to teach by the seaside. That would be the Sea of Galilee, of course. And there was gathered unto him a great multitude, so that he entered into a ship and sat in the sea. And the whole multitude was by the sea on the land. Okay, so he's in the boat, just a little bit off the shore, and there's this multitude on the beach. And he taught them many things by parables, and said unto them in his doctrine, verse 3, Hearken, behold, there went out a sower to sow. All right, planting seeds. And it came to pass, as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up. All right. Now, he goes into a little bit later in explaining some of this, but I'll touch on it briefly as I go through here. Of course, the seed is the word, sowing truth into the world. What we do, the sower is somebody who carries the gospel, somebody who carries the word of truth. That's here. It says here that some of it fell by the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up. So that would be symbolic of just the enemy destroying that truth going out and making it unfruitful. It wasn't able to accomplish what he sowed it for. And some fell on stony ground, where it had not much earth. And immediately it sprang up, because it had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it withered away. Okay, this is the word that sowed, and somebody hears it, but they have no depth of spirit. They aren't really rooted in the truth. And so it doesn't last very long. They hear it, and it sprouts, and they say, yeah, and then they forget about it right away. And they go right back into the world, into what they were doing. And they just let it go. It becomes unfruitful. Now, of course, like I said at the beginning, there's so many different meanings in this. So as I go through this, you may think, oh, but I see this or that. Well, yeah, you do. Many people see many different things from these words. Okay? Now, we're in verse 7 here. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no fruit. This is maybe antagonists, I would think. Maybe somebody who attacks the word. The thorns. Something that comes against it and causes it not to grow for some reason. And other fell on good ground and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased and brought forth some 30, some 60, and some 100. And he said unto them, He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. Okay? Now he's not speaking about physical ears here. He's speaking about spiritual ears. Being able to understand what he's saying and being able to apply it. Everybody doesn't get it. Everybody that hears it doesn't really get it. They may hear it superficially on the surface, and then they just say, oh yeah, that's neat the way he put that, and then they just cast it aside. Just like all the seed isn't prosperous. It has no depth of earth. But if you notice, a seed that was prosperous fell on good ground, and it says that it increased. And it brought forth some 30, some 60, and some 100. And I just got thinking about that, and I realized how we don't know the people that we touch in our life. And I just started thinking back over my life, thinking about different things and different people who I had spoken with at different times. You have friends that come in and out of your life, right? You can get real close to somebody and then you just go separate ways. And then you lose track of them. A lot of times you really don't know what became of some of these people, really. And many times the impression that we make on people, something that we said, just a word of advice, a word of encouragement, a helping hand in some way, can really affect a person's life, and it can be something that they never forget. Sometimes I'll run into somebody I haven't seen in a long time, and they'll bring up something from the past, and they'll say, oh, do you remember this one time that you said this or you did that? And sometimes right away I don't remember. I think about it and I remember sometimes. So different people remember different things. It's really important that we say the proper things and we say the right things that can build people up and can sow that seed of truth in their life, So that's what he's talking about here to me. Now, in verse 10, it says, now he's talking from the boat, all right? Now suddenly the scene changes, like it does all the time in the Gospel of Mark. And when he was alone, all right? So obviously, this is another time. And when he was alone, they that were about him with the 12 asked of him the parable. So I guess this happened at a later time. We know that it was at a later point from when he was speaking the words. Now notice it also says they that were about him with the 12. It doesn't say the 12 asked him. It says they that were about him with the 12 asked of him the parable. So it contradicts itself a little bit there, really, because it says he was alone. But yet it says those that were about him with the 12. So he couldn't have been completely alone. I would say maybe it's just that he was alone with those who listened to him, right? Those that had ears, those that were following maybe. And so they asked him about the parable. They were inquiring what it meant. And he said unto them, unto you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God. To who? The ones that were following him. The ones that were pressing in. The ones that wanted to know. They desired to know. They hungered for the truth. Unto you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God. But unto them that are without, all these things are done in parables. So the parables were actually a way to weed out people that were serious from people that were truly seeking. You know, the people that weren't serious about it, they would just hear it and they'd say, oh, that's interesting. And then they'd just let it go. Kind of like the seed that fell by the wayside, right? But the ones that really pressed in and wanted to know what it meant, here they're asking. They're asking. They want to know more. They want to understand. And another thing here is that our understanding is given to us. Notice that he says there, unto you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God. So it's something that's given to us from God. It's not anything that we got, because we're smart or we're somehow on a higher level than these other people that didn't get it. That's not what it is at all. It's that it was given to us because we desire it, because we want to know. We hunger for the truth. But it's not something that we merited, not anything that we earned on our own part. It's something that's given to us as a gift. Verse 12, that seeing they may see and not perceive, and hearing they may hear and not understand, lest at any time they should be converted and their sins should be forgiven them. So see, they never quite get there. They never quite get there. Even though they hear it, they don't really hear it. And even though they see it, they don't quite perceive it. They let it go. And they go on because the cares of this world are more important, see. That's part of it too, is they put these material things of this world on a higher level than the matters of truth that are more important than anything, really. And another thing is those that will not see, okay, they will not to see. They hear it and they say, oh, yeah, that's interesting, and then they just put it aside and they go on. There's no desire there. They don't desire. It's not within their will to see, to hear, to understand. So because of that, they can't see. It's not like God's not giving it to them or leaving them out in some way. That's not what it is. He presents it there to everybody. And either they're desirous of it or they're not. So those that don't will themselves to see, they can't see, or they're not given sight. They're not able to see it because they're not receiving it. I'm not really sure how to say it. But yeah, it has nothing to do with intellect or anything like that. It has to do with that desire. In Isaiah chapter 6, verses 9 and 10, it says basically the same thing here. And Jesus was sort of quoting from Isaiah there when he said that hearing they may hear and not understand, and seeing they may see and not perceive. This was first written in Isaiah, maybe 800 years before this. And what it said there, this is Isaiah 6, verses 9 and 10. And he said, God telling the prophet Isaiah, he said, go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their heart and convert and be healed. He's saying, let their eyes be shut because they don't desire it, see? They don't desire it. They don't care. They don't want to see. So let it be that way. We make our own decisions. We've talked about that before. All right, let's go on here. Verse 13. And he said unto them, know ye not this parable? He said to them, don't you understand? They were asking him what it meant, And he says, know ye not this parable? How then will ye know all parables? If you don't get this one, how are you going to understand any of them, right? So he goes on here to explain it a little bit to them. The sower soweth the word. And these are they by the wayside, where the word is sown. But when they have heard, Satan cometh immediately and taketh away the word that was sown in their hearts. Distraction. It's taken away by the cares of this life and things like that. Verse 16. And these are they likewise which are sown on stony ground, who, when they have heard the word, immediately receive it with gladness, but have no root in themselves, and so endure for a time. Afterward, when the affliction or persecution ariseth for the word's sake, immediately they are offended. Yeah, a lot of people are like that. They receive the truth of the word, and then they go out into the world. They go to their jobs or whatever it might be, and then maybe they're attacked or made fun of or mocked in some way. So then they drop it right away because the approval of the world is more important to them than truth and growing in that area. If it's going to mean losing all their friends, then they don't want it. Peer pressure. That's what that one is. Verse 18. And these are they which are sown among thorns, such as hear the word, and the cares of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the lusts of other things entering in, choke the word, and it becometh unfruitful. Worldly temptations. And I take this as demonic oppression, really. Spiritual warfare. Say if somebody hears the word and they give up something. Say they give up smoking or drinking or drugs or illicit sex or whatever it is that they're involved in. They give those things up, or they attempt to. Right away it comes back in, because that temptation, which is a spiritual thing, many times deliverance is needed in cases like that. So they last for a little while, but then that temptation comes right back in, and then they say, oh, well, I guess it wasn't anything after all, right? And they go right back into the rut that they were in. Verse 20. And these are they which are sown on good ground, such as hear the word, and receive it, and bring forth fruit, some 30-fold, some 60, and some 100. And you don't know. If the word is sowed in your life and you accept it and you live a godly life and you commit your life to Him, you really don't know what's springing out of that. You don't really know for sure how it's spreading. We'll know one day. When we get there, I believe that we'll be shown the things that we did, that the word that spread out, and we were able to help people in their lives too, that maybe we didn't even know about when we were here. And he said unto them, is a candle brought to be put under a bushel or under a bed, and not to be set on a candlestick? Yeah. The light of the word shines forth and it spreads. It's not something that you get and then you hide it away. You hide it away so nobody else can know. It won't prosper that way. It won't grow. you'll lose it. You know, the way that this is worded in Matthew is a little bit more to it. And he says, let your light so shine before men that they can see. Yeah. And they can see and say, what's different about that guy? Yeah. For there is nothing hid which shall not be manifested. Everything is going to come to light eventually, whether it's good or bad. You know, people working wickedness in the world, and they're hiding it. They think people don't know. It'll all come to light. If it doesn't come to light here, it'll come to light in the hereafter. Nothing is hidden. For there is nothing hid which shall not be manifested. Neither was anything kept secret, but that it should come abroad. Yeah. All will be revealed. Right now, we're seeing some of these revelations in the world right now, in different areas, in the medical field, in the political world, in the religious world, in all different things around the earth. We see now a lot of things are being revealed that were hidden before, that people didn't know about. Now a lot of it is, like it says here, a lot of it's coming abroad, or it's being publicized now, and people are finding out a lot of these things that have been going on that we knew nothing about until just recently. Right? Well, it's the same way with good things also. Nothing remains hidden. It all becomes public knowledge eventually. Verse 23. If any man have ears to hear, let him hear. There he said it again. That's the second time that he said that. For he who has ears, let him hear. Some don't want to hear, right? There are some that don't want to hear it. They hear it and they say, I don't want to hear any of that stuff. I don't care about that God stuff. Oh, they're talking about that Jesus stuff. Right? There's a lot of people like that. They don't want to hear. They don't want to have ears. In 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 18, that whole chapter speaks a little bit on this subject, but in verse 18 it says, for the preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness. Yeah. But unto us which are saved, it is the power of God. Yeah. Yeah. To them, they think it's nonsense. They don't want to hear it. They think it's they think it's religious fanatic nonsense. To those people, they've cut themselves off. They'll never hear. Because God doesn't force himself upon anybody. The Holy Spirit is a gentleman. He doesn't force himself into your life like the devil does at all. No. If you refuse him and turn around and walk the other way and don't want anything to do with it, so be it. He lets it be that way for you. So see, we're the makers of our own destiny. We're the ones that decide our own future. Verse 24. And he said unto them, take heed what ye hear. With what measure ye mete, or ye measure out. Mete means to meter, to measure out. With what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you. And unto you that hear shall more be given. Amen? Yeah. Yes, this is so true. This is so true. I can't even describe the revelation and the things that the Lord has done in my life. And they're spiritual things. I'm not talking about physical things. Since I started doing this, since I started making these videos, I mean, things have really opened up. He's really drawn me close to him. And many things he reveals to those that press in and want to know. Right? For he that hath, to him shall be given. Yeah. And he that hath not, from him shall be taken even that which he hath. All right. Now, there's another one it sounds mean, but it's not mean at all. If a person doesn't want to know anything, if they don't desire to learn, if they don't desire to press into these things of God, then even the little bit that he had will slip away. It'll drift away. Notice how those that won't hear, those that refuse to hear, get progressively more and more deaf all the time. Don't they? Yeah, they do. Usually, if there's an opening and they express a desire to hear, many times that'll grow then. It'll grow and they'll be drawn closer and closer. And that's not anything that we do. That's the work of the Holy Spirit. We put the seed out, and then from that point, it's His job. It's not our job to be the Holy Spirit and to shove it down somebody's throat, and force them to believe something. It's not how it is. We present the truth, we present the gospel, and then we leave it at that. And He does the rest. In Galatians chapter 5, verse 9, the Apostle Paul said there, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. Yeah. The leaven is symbolizes something that's bad. It symbolizes sin and ignorance and these things that grow in your life. So if you don't want to hear the truth and you put it aside, then that whole idea will grow. It will grow like leaven in your life until it chokes it out completely. Verse 26. And he said, so is the kingdom of God. This is what the kingdom of God is like. As if a man should cast seed into the ground, and should sleep, and rise night and day, go on day after day, and the seed should spring and grow up, he knoweth not how. Right, that's what I was just saying. We initiate it, and then just let it go. And He does the work after that. If the ground is good where it's sown, 1 Timothy 3:16 says, and without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness. Yes, it is a mystery, isn't it? Yeah. We don't know when it's going to grow or if it's going to grow. We just don't know. That's the mystery of godliness. And that's the work of the Holy Spirit. So, if you minister to somebody, say you witness to somebody, and they just don't get it. They don't get it. And you keep trying. You shouldn't keep trying, I don't think. That's just my opinion. If the seed isn't sown, then if it doesn't take root, then it's something that they're doing. They have no interest. They're casting it away. We can't force this on anybody, see? Verse 28. This is some deep stuff here, really. Verse 28. For the earth bringeth forth fruit of herself. Right, we don't force the earth to grow something. The earth bringeth forth fruit of herself. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. Now here's an interesting thought right here. The prophets don't live forever. The prophets didn't live forever. Isaiah, say, he lived 2,800 years ago, something like that. But the word that these prophets preached, they're still doing their work today. Long after they've left the world, it's still growing, right? You know, how many people do you suppose are there who read something from the book of Jeremiah and it captures their heart and it draws them in? It draws them into truth. So Jeremiah is still performing his ministry today. Yeah. So it's really important that we lay down good seed, that we say good things, godly things, truth, not lies, because lies are like the leaven, and they spread, and they destroy whatever they get into. Amen. Verse 29. But when the fruit is brought forth, immediately he putteth in the sickle. The farmer, God. Immediately he putteth in the sickle, because the harvest is come. Yes. We're all preparing ourselves for harvest. We're being prepared for the harvest. Yeah, we want to have good fruit in our lives. And he said, whereunto shall we liken the kingdom of God? Or with what comparison shall we compare it? All right? So he's trying to think of another way to describe it here. Whereunto shall we liken the kingdom of God? Or with what comparison shall we compare it? All right? So he thinks of another thing here. Verse 31. It is like a grain of mustard seed, which when it is sown in the earth is less than all the seeds that be in the earth. You ever seen a mustard seed? It's very small. But when it is sown, it groweth up and becometh greater than all herbs, and shooteth out great branches, so that the fowls of the air may lodge under the shadow of it. Yeah. It could just be a small word. It could be just a couple words that you give to somebody. And that can bloom and blossom into something great for the kingdom of God. And with many such parables spake he the word unto them. He used these parables all the time. And this siphoned out those that were serious from those that weren't serious. Those that had a heart for it, right? Those that would receive it. With many such parables spake he the word unto them, as they were able to hear it, in familiar ways that they could understand. It's what it is. But without a parable spake he not unto them. And when they were alone, he expounded all things to his disciples. Okay? Because they were seeking. They were the ones who were looking. They were the ones that were following him, who were reaching out, who had opened up their heart to it. And they believed him, you know? And so he helped them to hear. Because they desired it. They asked something of him. In Matthew chapter 7, verses 6 and 7, he kind of talks about this there, and he says, give not that which is holy unto the dogs. Right. That's why he spoke in parables. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. All right? So he's saying, give it to those who want it. Don't throw truths in front of people that are going to hurt you. They're going to destroy the growth of that seed, whatever it might be. You know? That's why he spoke in parables. Because it filtered out the people who wanted to know from the people who didn't care. Verse 35. And the same day, when the even was come, he said unto them, let us pass over unto the other side. The other side. That's interesting. Now you can take that a few different ways right there. There in this area where he was preaching, he was speaking these parables to the people, and then he was explaining them to his disciples, and there was probably more things that went on here. It doesn't tell us everything. It just gives us little snippets of it, you know. But he says, let us pass over unto the other side. He was always on the move. He was on the move to do more, to spread it more somewhere else. Let's go to the other side. They were done with this side. And when they had sent away the multitude, okay, there's all those people that were there, they took him even as he was in the ship. Okay, so he's still in the ship there. So as long as he was in the ship, he stayed there, and they left. And it says, and there were also with him other little ships. Now, isn't that interesting? And that's never depicted that way, is it? Like in the movies or the paintings or anything like that. When they go out onto the Sea of Galilee, it's always just their boat. That's how it's always pictured. But it says here, there were also with him other little ships. Other people that were following. They didn't all fit into one boat. He had this whole entourage that was following him around. It was more than just the 12. And they were getting ready to depart and go to the other side of Galilee. Verse 37. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full of water. The waves beat into it until it was full. So they were ready to sink. And he, the Lord, was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. And they awake him and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? I think it's interesting that he was in the hinder part of the ship. That's where it was steered from. That's where the helm usually was on those old boats like that. The helm was in the rear of the ship. So that's where he was sleeping. It says he was asleep on a pillow. Okay? No, the ship was becoming flooded and it was ready to sink. And the way that they say it there, Master, carest thou not that we perish? Don't you care? Don't you care that this has happened and that we're going to be drowned in this storm? Yes, Jesus cares. There's an old hymn called Does Jesus Care? One of my favorites. As a matter of fact, I'm going to record it here soon. It's one of my favorites, and I've never done a version of it of my own, and I want to do that. But yes, he does care. Verse 39, it says, And he arose and rebuked the wind. It said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. Well, of course, he's the Creator. He's the Word become flesh. He's the one that calls the shots. Everything that occurred when he was here, everything that happened were things that he allowed to happen, that he intended to happen. What this reminds me of here where he rises and rebukes the wind and calms the sea. In Psalm 107, verses 28 and 29, it says there, they cry unto the Lord in their trouble. He's talking about sailors at sea in this passage from the Psalms. They cry unto the Lord in their trouble, in the storm, and he bringeth them out of their distresses. He maketh the storm a calm, so that the waves thereof are still. Yeah. There's so much of this that was prophesied in the Old Testament. And one particular passage that this brought to mind is from Isaiah chapter 9, in verses 1 and 2 there. He says, by the way of the sea, beyond Jordan, in Galilee of the nations, the people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined. Man, that was so prophetic. And this is what we were seeing here. In Galilee of the nations, the light was shining. Verse 40. And he said unto them, why are ye so fearful? After he calmed everything. Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? After everything he'd been talking to them about. And they feared exceedingly, and said one to another, what manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? Yeah. It's hard for us to put ourselves in his place. You know, we're looking back at this, reading this, and saying, well, didn't they know that he's the Son of God? This is how we think now, looking back at it in retrospect. If we were actually there, would you have followed him? Would you have been one of those that reached out, not knowing really for sure who he was? But we know that the Holy Spirit that was within him was drawing them. Even then, before the day of Pentecost, before the Holy Spirit was sent. In those days, the Holy Spirit was here also. It was embodied within the Lord Jesus Christ, see? So I imagine there would have been the Spirit that he radiated would have been drawing them. Now this whole chapter, it really affected me. It opened up a lot to me that I can't really put into words. It's a matter of coming to the realization of how important our words are in our lives. How important the impression is that we leave on other people. And that we shine the light of the Lord Jesus on any who will receive it. But like I was saying, we have to remember that we aren't the Holy Spirit. We sow, and then he does the rest of the work. Amen. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time together with my friends. I thank you for giving me the words to slightly explain these great truths from your word. Lord, I thank you for prospering it. I thank you that your word goes forth from this channel. Lord, and I ask that all those listening would be blessed, and that those who maybe aren't real familiar with the gospel, that seed would be prosperous, and that they would be drawn in to your love. I thank you for all this. In Jesus' name, amen. All righty. That was a difficult one. That was a difficult one. And like I said in the beginning, the words of the Lord were so profound. And I think this is the deepest I've ever really looked at this particular chapter. And there's so much in it. You know, we tend to look at the Gospel of Mark as being small, maybe, and not being as complete as the others, and maybe not having as much in it. But I'm finding that it's every much as profound as the Gospel of John. In a different way, of course. But there's just as much light shining from every part of Scripture. Amen. I'll see y'all the next time around. Like, share, subscribe, all that. Help me to grow this channel. And I thank you for it. I love you all. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
I love to tell the story. It is so much for me, and that is just the reason I tell it now to thee. I love to tell the story.